Usually it's college football. We drop college football first. But you know what? It's championship week. Between these next 2 weeks, if you're in fantasy football, you are in the championships. If you've made it to this point in fantasy football, you are playing for a chip. You're playing for immortality. And what do I tell you? No one cares about second place. Very admirable, but you're the first loser. No one gives a damn about third place. I can't tell you who got third place from my league last year, let alone to tell you who's going to get it this year. I can't even tell you who's playing for third place. I don't know if I am. You know why? Because if it's not for first or second, I clock out. That's how much championships mean to me in fantasy football. On the YouTube channel, it tells you 3-time fantasy football champion. I take this serious. This means something. And I'm going to keep it a 100 for you. The money is just a bonus. The money is a bonus. To win a fantasy football championship says, for 17 weeks, I knew more about football than you. For 17 weeks, I knew more about any opponent that I played. And if you're an underdog, congratulations. You made it. If you're a top dog, don't celebrate. What are you celebrating for? Job's not done. Kobe Bean Bryant. The job's not done. We finished strong this week, folks. This is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG. Subscribe, rate, and review. We're on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Check us out. And once again, remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And also, we're on Instagram. That guy Jig on Instagram. But we're starting off with the Jets and Browns. They kick off Thursday Night Football. If you don't know, now you know. BIG. Amari Cooper is not playing. Amari Cooper is out. He is not playing tonight versus the Jets. This game already didn't have much gold in these hills. But with Amari Cooper out, it kind of takes Joe Flacco a little bit off the board. I do expect him to kind of throw it around a little bit for the Browns. See, because the Browns are still playing because they can do something for seeding. They can, perhaps get a number 1 seed. They could perhaps, jump the Ravens. So this is a game that they have to win. They have to come out there and compete. With the Jets, you got Garrett Wilson. You know he's going to get his volume. Breece Hall, he's going to get his volume. David Njoku for the Browns. He's going to get his volume tonight for sure. Elijah Moore. I'm personally going to put a couple bucks on Elijah Moore for first touchdown. Going against his former team in the Jets. I would look for Elijah Moore to get in the end zone first tonight. Or at any time touchdown. But for this Jets and Browns game, there's not the defenses. The Browns have the number 1 defense this week going against that Jets, the offense, of course. Can they rattle Trevor Siemian? Can they get the Trevor Siemian? If you're playing against the Jets, you're hoping that the Jets against the Browns, you're hoping that the Jets can put up a couple points. 17 points. We're asking for 17 points, Trevor. Me personally, I am in a championship game. I am in one, and I'm going against the Browns defense. I'm hoping for a couple of touchdowns from Trevor. I'm not expecting it. I'm hoping. Hope in one hand and shit in the other, and you tell me which one fills up first. Moving on. Lions and Cowboys on Saturday. Explosion. I like points. I like all the usual suspects for the Lions. St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, the Jared Goff at quarterback. In the deeper leagues, Khalif Raymond, and also Josh Reynolds. For the Cowboys, you hope they can get it going. I look for Tony Pollard to get a few more carries because the Cowboys have an elite offensive line when healthy. All right. I don't know how healthy they are, but I do expect them to try to get the run game more established. Mike McCarthy has been under a lot of fire for not getting a run game established since week 1. So look for them to use the pass game to open up their run game. Usual suspects for the Cowboys, Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, Pollard, Ferguson. These are the guys I'm comfortable with. Brandon Cooks. I'm comfortable with playing at Brandon Cooks in my flex if I have to. If I'm reaching deeper than that, if you're looking at Dwaddle, Doodle, whatever his name is. If you're looking at that guy, the running back, tough game for you. This is going to be a tough week for you. Because look for Tony Pollard to have a heavy workload in this game, I'm telling you, folks. Pats versus the Bills. The Bills got to get these receivers going. Stephon Diggs is due. Stephon Diggs is due. If you're playing against Stephon Diggs this week in fantasy football, watch the hell out. There's really 3 players this week that you really need to watch the hell out for if you're playing in fantasy football. And that is Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey, and Stephon Diggs. Because all 3 of those guys are due for elite games. And I'll explain those other 2 when I get to their games. But Stephon Diggs is due for a breakthrough game. His numbers have been down since Joe Burrow has taken over offensive coordinator. We know what James Cook has been doing. The Patriots probably will take away that run game. They probably will try to make Josh Allen throw because, honestly, you can force Josh Allen to some turnovers. Gabe Davis finally came alive. I know if you have Gabe Davis in fantasy football and you are in the finals, you're hoping he can continue this. I don't know if that's true. Because if Stephon Diggs is eating, Gabe Davis is not. It's just that simple. They don't spread the ball around like that no more. I'm probably going to eat crow because they're probably going to spread it around and both of them get 2 touchdowns. I don't know. But I do know I am very fearful if I play Stephon Diggs this week. The Bills offense should get back on track, get their playmakers going. This is kind of like one of those, get your stat right games. The Patriots ain't playing for shit. Patriots are playing for draft picks. And when you're playing for draft picks, you know what it is. You know what it is. Just make it look reasonable. We got the Falcons and the Bears. This game's going to be one of those old school grueling run games. But I do like DJ Moore in this matchup. I do like Cole Kmet if he does play. I like Justin Fields as far as all-purpose. Now on the flip side with the Falcons, I do like Drake London. I do like Kyle Pitts. Depending on who they have under quarterback. See, that's the whole thing about these Falcons receivers. It all depends on the quarterback. The quarterback's been so inconsistent in Atlanta, it takes away from the receivers. Now, Kyle Pitts has been bad for the last 2 years, so he has no real excuse. But right now, his excuse is that the quarterback situation is kind of iffy. So in this game right here, if you don't have like a running back or a number 1 receiver, DJ Moore or Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Cole Kmet, one of those 2 guys, you're really not trying to play anybody. Daryl Mooney is the guy that I would look for to get like maybe a boom touchdown. He's always a great boom or bust player if you have to play him, just because of the position he plays, slot receiver. He's not getting number 1 coverage. With Justin Fields being able to scramble, the scramble drill is where he's able to break free behind defenses and get lost. So I always do like a guy like Darnell Mooney in a game like this. The Raiders versus the Colts, this game right here, Devontae Adams, if you're playing against Devontae, he's probably going to get off because he didn't do shit last week. So they're going to try to get him the ball. I think Zamir White and Josh Jacobs are, at this point, Tulsa, Oklahoma stand up. But we're going to have to sit down on this one because I think Zamir White's going to get the nod. They're going to go with the youth. They always go with youth in the NFL, unless you're under contract. Josh Jacobs is not. Jonathan Taylor, it depends on if Michael Pittman's playing. If Michael Pittman's back, then the Raiders can't really key in on the run game as much because you do have Michael Pittman. Now, this Raiders defense has been elite these last couple of weeks. So, if Michael Pittman is out, I would look for the Raiders defense. If I was playing fantasy and you don't have like an elite defense, the Raiders defense this week versus the Colts, the decent offensive line, not a great, gives up sacks. They might not have their number 1 receiver, so they'll be able to key in on the run game. I like the Raiders. The Raiders' offense is not turning the ball over so far in the last couple of weeks, which has really been complimentary to that defense. So I really wouldn't mind the Raiders' defense if you had to pick up a streaming defense this week. That's one that I wouldn't mind. The Colts' defense is another one because, once again, the Raiders aren't going to put up a ton of points. This game is probably going to be like, 17-24 at the max. It could get to like a high scoring, but that's if you have turnovers. I don't see many turnovers in this game. So there's that. The Rams and the Giants. Now this one right here, if you have the Rams, Puka, if you got Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, Stafford, man, Higbee, if you have to play a tight end, this is a good game for them. On the flip side with the Giants, I like a Wan'Dale Robinson slot receiver. He has a good rapport with the quarterback. Waller should be good, and Saquon's going to get his touches. So those usual three. Outside of those dudes, if you need a Darius Slayton, he's cool. If you need a deeper one, there's a Jalen Hyatt. Now Jalen Hyatt, man, he's touchdown dependent, meaning if he don't get a touchdown, he ain't gonna do shit for you besides like 2 or 3 points. That touchdown is gonna give him like 9 or 10, maybe 11, even still. So, and then listen, if you can get your hands on Demarcus Robinson, man, and if you haven't, I'm sorry, but the dude's had a touchdown, I think, in 4 or 5 straight weeks. So the streak's going to continue because you know how Stafford gets the ball out. I like the Rams as a dark horse to get to the Super Bowl, man. The Rams is one of those teams, man, where you look at that offense, they got a run game, they got a pass game, solid defense, they can make it. Cardinals versus the Eagles, look for the Eagles to get right, man. The Eagles have had a terrible, brutal schedule. Look for the Eagles playmakers to get back on par. Look for Swift to get into the paint, man, because he deserves it. So many tush pushes gets his touchdowns vultured. I think this week they make a point to get him a couple. For the Cardinals, this is going to be a tough week, man. So far, Kyler Murray hasn't practiced. He's been sick, so even if he does play, like I said last week with Trevor Lawrence, it's going to be a timing issue. Timing is everything in the NFL when you deal with the elite of the elite. Steps is everything. So look for that game that might get out of control. Saints versus the Buccaneers, big game for the division. Alvin Kamara, this is a huge game for him and fantasy football owners. We need Alvin Kamara to do something. If you have Rashard White, you want him to do something. Both of these defenses are missing players, so this game could get high scoring. With the way Baker Mayfield is really spinning that ball this year, don't be surprised if this is one of them games that end up being like 35-35. Where a lot of points get put up. This is going to be in a dome, or I think it's in Tampa. So depending on the weather, this game could get very high scoring, man. So if you got any of the usual suspects in this game, that's what you want to do. That's all right to do right there. Just because of the simple aspect of that's what's going to work. They're going to go with what works 9 times out of 10 over there. And guess what? When they put the ball into Alvin Kamara, Rashard White's, these guys' hands, big things happen. And Rashard White's getting about 46% of the touches down there. So if you have him, you're feeling good. Kate Otten's a good tight end. Goodwin, Evans, good solid options. Chris Olave, killing it. He's going to do his thing. So really, and then, Shaheed. Shaheed's also a streamer that you can pick up if you need a receiver for this week. 49ers versus the Commanders. Now, I told y'all earlier, watch out for McCaffrey because McCaffrey, listen, the 49ers are going to try to get him his MVP. The first non-quarterback MVP in a while. So look for McCaffrey to get his touches. If you playing against McCaffrey in the championship, which they say on ESPN, 58% of the people in championships have Christian McCaffrey. So if that's the case, if you got Christian McCaffrey, hey, you going against him? Hey, I'm telling you right now, dude getting at least 25. So just go ahead and get that in your books, man. You down 25 automatically because Christian McCaffrey getting in the paint twice. They're going to get this dude an MVP if they can. He might throw one. You heard it here first. He might throw one. Panthers versus that. And for the Commanders, man, they got Jacoby Brissett under center, so they're not going to turn the ball over as much. I like Terry McLaurin. I like Curtis Samuel. I like Jahan Dotson. Logan Thomas is a good tight end this week. Look for Jacoby Brissett to check it down to his tight ends, running backs a lot. Panthers and Jaguars, this game right here, I like the Jaguars defense versus that young quarterback. The playmakers for the Panthers are going to have a tough game because this Jaguars defense is going to be very aggressive. If Trevor Lawrence does not turn the ball over, it should be a very good day for the Jaguars defense. Same with the Jaguars playmakers. Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley. These guys should be getting in the paint. Zay Jones. They should be taking a visit to touchdown land. Those are the guys that should be going. And as we move on to that next game, the Titans and Texans, this game right here is going to be one of those low-scoring ones. C.J. Stroud's supposed to be playing, so if you have a Texans playmaker, they are back on the board. Especially if you have, tight ends, receivers, they're back on the board. A little bit more when they had Casey Keenum. For the Titans, you want to play Derrick Henry, you got to play everybody. This is the last couple weeks. maybe, something breaks through down there. But this is one of those games where outside of the usual suspects, you really can't dive too deep in. And then you got the Steelers and Seahawks. Seahawks, they DK, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker at running back, Tyler Charbonnet might hawk a touchdown. It happens. For the Steelers, you can't trust nobody, folks. I'm telling you, you're playing with fire if you play some of these receivers and hope you're getting some product. You're playing with fire. It's not going to be something that's going to reap the booty. It's not going to give you high reward, man. You're going to be looking real foolish. Real foolish. Broncos and Chargers, this is the poop bowl. This is probably the worst game. And if you have players in it, I feel bad for you. The Chargers are struggling. Quarterback's terrible. Running backs aren't doing their job. Coach got fired. Broncos benching quarterbacks. Backups coming in. Cortland Sutton's a cool red zone target. Javonte Williams is not even getting in the paint like that. So this is one of those games where it's like, if you got to play someone, you got to play someone. I can't tell you not to take points. But I'm telling you, this game is going to be tough to find. It's going to be tough. Maybe the kickers. Maybe the offenses can move the ball enough to where the kickers can get you some value. But as far as these guys, the overall, no, I can't. Listen, I can't do that. Because so far, we've built a trust. We've built a bond. You listen and, I don't want to give you false information. I don't want to ruin your championship. I want you hoisting up the trophy. I want you looking at everybody a little bit different next year because you know what? That shit stank. Championship stank. Because it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and just straight sweat. Sweat. Moving on. Bengals and Chiefs. Now, this is a game right here. Patrick Mahomes owes you. He owes you. The Chiefs receivers owe you. Travis Kelce owes you. He has 5 touchdowns, folks. Travis Kelce owes you. He owes you a big game. All this Swift nonsense, you know what? It's not good for business. And by business, I'm talking about productivity for the overall team. I'm not talking about just Kelce. The whole team is down. It's down. They need more receivers, but this week ain't about that. It's about them getting right and giving people what they deserve. And that's what they're going to do for you. If you got the Chiefs players, play them with pride. The Bengals, Jamar Chase is looking like he's probably going to be out. T. Higgins is looking like he can handle it, though. So T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Tanner Hudson, Joe Mixon, play them, love them. Joe Mixon probably gets a little extra carry this week to keep Mahomes off the field. So look for Mixon to have a solid game. Definitely going to get in the paint. Might get in the paint a couple times. Depending on if they can get a couple of turnovers on these Chiefs, if they can stop the magician and stop the show, Mixon could get in the paint a couple times here, folks. Packers and Vikings, a game that I think is going to be low-key high scoring. I think the Vikings are going with Jaren Hall. I think Jaren Hall is going to get the nod. He has a lot of weapons. Once again, you just can't crash the Ferrari. That's all they're asking is don't crash the Ferrari. Now, if you're the Packers, if you're Jordan Love, this is a game they have to win. I like Jalen Reed. He didn't play last week. I expect him to play this week. I like the running backs for Green Bay. The Vikings defense is solid. I like Wicks. I like Dubes. So I don't think Watson's going to play this week. So I like the way the Packers line up offensively versus the Vikings. It just once again, just like the Falcons and Bears, just like the Falcons, it all comes down to Jordan Love. It comes down to the quarterback. What is the quarterback going to do? Is he going to mess this up? Final, my game of the week, Dolphins versus Ravens. Now, I said Tyreek Hill, watch out. Last week he got 99 yards. So I look for them to maybe put up a few more yards in the passing. Now, if you remember, the Ravens had a tough game against the Rams. The Rams were able to throw the ball around. Now, I think that's the kind of approach the Dolphins will take versus the Ravens. So look for Tua, Tyreek Hill. Look for these guys to be busy. Busy Sunday for those guys. I don't really expect the Ravens offense to have a hangover per se, but that defense will. This defense will be in for a whole different type of game versus like they did versus the 49ers. A lot more speed over here in Miami. A lot more speed, a lot of, similar offenses. Don't get me wrong. Similar offenses came from the same offensive tree. I get it. But they have a little bit more speed in their offense down in Miami. So that's good. But that's my game of the week. I like the Ravens receivers. I like Zay Flowers. I like Zay Flowers. That's pretty much it. Isaiah Likely. I like him. Outside of that, if you have to play Odell, he is a solid streamer because somehow he does get lost behind defenses. And for the Ravens, but outside of Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Smite is not a bad tight end to look at. If you need him, he's there. But overall, you've made it here. You've made it here by doing one simple thing, and that's sticking to the script, folks. That's all it's about. Sometimes it's not, it's not fair to read into it. If you've been playing a guy all week, all year long at quarterback, then keep playing him this week. What are we going to change for? What are we doing all this changing for? This is championship week. You don't install a new offense the week of a championship. You might throw in a new wrinkle. Flex. You might throw in a new wrinkle, kicker. Defensive player. These are the type of wrinkles you might throw in. But the wrinkle you're not throwing in is changing your quarterback. You're not going to bench your number one receiver because, he has a tough matchup this week. No. I'm going to tell you right now, everybody has to play. You hear what I'm saying? The way the NFL standings are right now, everyone has to play. Nobody has the luxury of taking a week off. No one has that because home field advantage is so key. It's so key, especially in the playoffs, especially when we get to these winter months, especially when we get snow on the ground. But this is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG, and we got ESPN alerts going off all around. Fantasy football is going down, folks. So this is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG. Subscribe, rate, and review. Apple Podcasts, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. And remember, we're also on Instagram. We'll be dropping 2 more. You know how we do it, 3 a week. But we had to start off with the NFL this week. We had to start off with the NFL because of fantasy football. This is the last week, championship week. We are chasing immortality. No one cares about second place. And we damn sure don't remember who got third. We care about chips, folks. We care about chips. And if you can put a little dip on your chip, you do it. But listen, first you got to get the chip. So everybody, you go out there, you get you a chip. This is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. Peace. And I am him, JIG.